skip like that rock, you know? Testing the theory that a car can skip over water like a stone, as seen in the movies, the guys set up a 100-foot lake, a runway, and a modded car fitted with nitrous oxide, and they let her rip. It seems like it could have gone either way, but the car managed to skip twice on the water, awkwardly crashed down on the other side, and still even drove off. Half Dukes of Hazzard, half Fast and Furious. Number 3. A rock kicked up by a lawnmower is as lethal as a bullet. We know, a lethal lawnmower rock sounds like something from Final Destination, right? The idea that a rock hit by a lawnmower blade could have deadly implications is one of those strange myths you just assume is not possible.
So you almost got your first driveway with this all of a sudden morning your lawnmower was over on those blocks, kicks across the street, kills you.
And that's exactly how the guys felt going into this. This myth states that a lawnmower
From the rock hit from a bullet from a 357.
and terrifyingly, it turned out to be true. In fact, they proved that a rock would have even more power than a .35 stabbing bullet. Better stick to cutting your lawn with a pair of scissors. Number 2, you can stick your hand in molten lead and be okay. Yes, the popular frat party activity. Not. With a rumor going around that you could dip your hand into molten lead and not be hurt, Adam and Jamie felt the need to put their hands on the line for science.
Which leaves just one question.
I'm game. You game?
The theory goes that if you dip your hand into water and then plunge it into molten lead, something called the Leidenfrost effect will protect you. Initially succeeding with a sausage, the guys seemed happy to make themselves the test subjects, and thankfully they came out unscathed.
Ladies and gentlemen, one human hand and molten metal.
So if you drop your keys down a gutter filled with molten lead, you should probably just get a new set of keys. I'll just take Mythbusters on their word for that last one. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions.
Finally, he can't hold his breath any longer and signals for Jamie to pass him the regulator.
Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah!
The toilet seat is remarkably clean, but that's not so true of the others, particularly the kitchen sponge.
Oh, dude, that is nasty. The stinking color's off the ground. This is amazing. Oh, dude.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You'll have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Water can slow a bullet to non-lethal speeds. This method may not be as cool as dodging bullets, but diving into some water to escape bad guy gunfire is still pretty badass. And according to the Mythbusters, it totally works.
The myth is that you're being shot at, you dive underwater, the water protects you from the bullets.
Legend has it that if you hide underwater, bullets fired at you will slow down rapidly and become harmless. Putting it to the test using a range of weapons, from a handgun to a .50 caliber rifle with armor-piercing rounds, the guys quickly discovered that survival is just a few feet away when submerged underwater. In fact, depending on what angle the gun is fired from, as little as 3 feet could slow the bullet to a complete stop.
What do you got?
I got a bunch of stuff. It expended all its energy within 3 feet and became totally non-lethal.
If someone's shooting at you though, we still suggest you swim away. Well, that last one is certainly surprising. Which one was the most surprising to you?
It just goes to show that cheaters never prosper. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 brutal punishments given to cheaters. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified this list, we'll be exploring the creatively harsh ways cheaters were punished in video games. Number 10. Banned for over 7,000 years. Monster Hunter Tri. Sometimes you just need to specify how long a lifetime ban can be. Capcom was nice enough to provide a length of time before cheaters can play Monster Hunter Tri again. Cheaters will be presented with a message stating that their account has been banned until the year 9999. If you are somehow still around and the Earth hasn't been obliterated by aliens or the apocalypse, you can play the game again. However, if you are found cheating a second time, then your account will be permanently banned. Wait, the servers are closed already? Well, that sucks for the people who cheated. Number 9, Dirty Hacker, Undertale. It can be challenging for some players to see every ending a game has to offer. For example, Undertale has almost a dozen different endings, one of which requires that you have the game. In doing so, the player will be greeted by Sans, who expresses his confusion in how the player got his error message. He will go on to advise the player to contact the developer before indirectly accusing them of hacking the game and calling them a dirty hacker. Way to make a player feel guilty, Sans. Time, Grantilda will threaten to disable the save file. Enter a third code and she follows through. You can keep playing, but the next time you boot up the game, your previous save file won't be there. Number 7, Death by Cow Beast. The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. To go after them. Anyone else remember the invincible scorpion from Series Sam 3? As for The Witcher 3, an exploit was discovered where players could farm gold by killing cows. To combat this, CD Projekt Red released a patch that causes the exploit to spawn the Bovine Defense Force Initiative. Basically, you'll end up fighting a never-ending horde of human cows trying to kill you. That'll teach people a thing or two about killing cows for no reason. Number 6, Enslavement, Ark, Survival Evolved. As with many online games, Ark has had its fair share of cheaters and griefers. Thankfully, the community has found ways to counteract jerks by capturing and enslaving their characters. By doing this, cheaters and griefers will be forced to either stop playing the game or serve their captors until they're set free. The offender can't kill their character either, as you can force feed them to keep them alive. It's a form of vigilantism that seems ripe for exploitation, but the community has shared a few success stories in changing the behaviors of Number 5, Red Dead Redemption. Most developers resort to creating cheaters in some form, but Rockstar Games decided to get a little more creative. Red Dead Redemption. Any players caught cheating will find themselves unwelcome in every town. Law enforcement will begin shooting at cheaters if they are within the area, regardless if the cheater did something to provoke them. To encourage a bit more vigilante justice, the game will also label your account as a player killer, which can draw unwanted attention from other players. Hey, if they're cheating for illegal use, why not just give them the spotlight by making them the biggest outlaw in the West? Number 4, Game Score Reset and Granted, Xbox Live. Care about how impressive your game score appears to other players, you best avoid cheating on Xbox. In April 2009, hackers were discovered to have obtained Xbox achievements in Gears of War 2 through unauthorized means. In doing so, they soon found their game scores completely wiped, sending their accounts back to essentially zero. This prompted Microsoft to launch a cheating policy of their own. Get caught cheating, and your game card will be forever branded, letting other players know you've cheated before and probably still are. Number 3, public humiliation and character deletion, Guild Wars. As we've seen throughout this list, developers are not afraid of playing small by our cheaters. In a game like Guild Wars, what better way to do this than by a public execution? Now, there weren't ceremonies or hearings held. No, the executions just happened. You could be talking to someone until doom appears out of nowhere and straight up kills them in front of everyone. It was such a unique event, and if you ever saw something like this happen to someone, you immediately knew they cheated at some point. Adding insult to injury, the cheater would be permanently banned. Number 2, owing an apology, H1Z1. Demanding an apology from the cheater is nothing new in games. H1Z1, on the other hand, has a very different way of going about it. If you're caught cheating, your account will be permanently banned. The only way to recover it is to upload a YouTube video publicly admitting cheating. Then, email a link to the developers. Unfortunately, this made many people salty, and after receiving so many facetious apologies, developer Daybreak Game Company retaliated with a video mocking them. Was it really too much just to swallow your pride?
I recently got hacked to my friend and got banned within the day. I barely abused them.
Number 1, a lawsuit. Fortnite Battle Royale. It may seem like a petty move from the developer, but there's plenty of reason for a cheater to be sued. You're not just manipulating your own stats for an ego boost, you're ruining the game for everyone else. If you're still wanting to shamelessly cheat, make sure it isn't on Fortnite. In November 2017, Epic Games filed a lawsuit against a 14-year-old boy for cheating. Most people were quick to say that this was uncalled for, and the boy's mother claimed it was simply a scapegoat. However, Epic has stated that the kid was caught cheating multiple times, knowing that it violates their terms of service. Seriously, kids, just don't cheat. Ever. Did you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from Watch Mojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.
I stay up until 10:30? I'm not affected by going to sleep late that much. You know me. Why? Apart? Okay. In 5 minutes. I mostly focusing on history. Oh, it needs power. No, it still needs to charge. It's kind of workable, but the battery is super low. Yeah. You can see it. I remember doing that before, but it dies like when the charger doesn't charge. Well, basically the charger doesn't charge fast enough in order to keep on power. Maybe that's before I do it. Well, it logs on, but only works for like a small amount of time. Oh. Okay, it's two-way phone. News after rock and two-way phone and I kind of want to do this for you. I'm walking. I'm supposed to be in the city or being in Henry. Okay. Are you gonna come? Okay. Yeah, I know. You told me. You need the book. Are you gonna go somewhere?
No.
Oh, why are you putting on your socks? Because it's cold? Oh. Yeah. The big book?
Yeah.
Did you take the big book back because of that?
I think I have one in the trunk. Do you need it?
Yeah, I need it in order to do that.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab it.
Oh, can you watch this afterwards?
Yes, I'm watching it at home.
Okay. Poop water? Or no poop water?
Okay, real quick, but you gotta do the walkthrough.
Yeah, I know. The Brits.
We're working on a series about building things, making the tools necessary to build them. It's easy to focus on the transition from stone to bronze tools being one of the first major changes of significance. But this overlooks the much more revolutionary change that preceded it and made it possible in the first place. The Neolithic Revolution, the transition of humanity from hunting and gathering society to sedentary agricultural civilizations. In human history, 96% of it occurs in this pre-agrarian Paleolithic era. But in terms of human population, 88% of all humans lived after it. Starting around 10,000 BCE, several areas of the world, independent of each other, began to shift to agrarian lifestyle. The use of farming, 50 to 100 times as many people could live in the same area. This increased source of energy allowed greater complexities in human society with denser populations. This stimulated collective learning and innovation with more people exchanging ideas, allowing more advanced and specialized professions, such as metalsmithing, to emerge. In most areas of the world, one of the key crops, though domesticated, was a grain, which would quickly become a new foundation to the human diet. Initially ground and eaten as a gruel, eventually evolved into bread, a cheap staple food that would fill stomachs and build empires. So now, on our quest to rebuild civilization from scratch, probably one of the most crucial building blocks will be some bread. So I've been spending time growing many of the grains humanity has used: wheat, rye, barley, oats, sorghum, corn, and buckwheat, even an attempt at rice, despite not having a long enough growing season to grow it outdoors in Minnesota. So now I should have a good bank of a variety of grains for my grains, a chisel and a mallet to help shape some stones, specifically to make a cornstone, which we use to grind the grains up. Then some baskets to hold all the grain and flour, and an oven to bake the bread. First word from our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends is a new mobile RPG game from the team at Plarium. It's an immersive game which is easy to play for 5 minutes or 5 hours, depending on what you got going on in your day. In the game, you assemble your crew and head into battle. Each victory wins you more silver,
Is this for
opportunities
parts?
to strengthen your champions, or add new ones. The game's summer, and we filmed a few upcoming casting segments with while he was here. Alright, I'm back with Greg, the swordcaster, and previously cast a few swords, but next, I have some grain that I want to harvest. Can you help me out with making a sickle?
As a matter of fact, I can. So wheat is coming right out of the Bronze Age, and the early Bronze Age, they would have been harvesting with something like this. So this is a stone tool that they would have made, and farmers during the early Bronze Age would have been using this because they didn't have bronze. Like during the early Bronze Age, most of the military things. So farmers were making tools like this, and you can see where they get the idea. because it looks a lot like an animal jawbone, and you can use that for cutting wheat like you're going to do. And these are found kind of all over the world. This particular design is from Mesopotamia, but they were using these like in the Pacific Islands. They would use shark's teeth in the same way. That's early Bronze Age. By the later Bronze Age, some farmers, if they're lucky, were able to have things like this. This would have been attached to a handle, would be about up to here like that. They would have just put it on the top and then wrap some leather around it, a couple of rivets to go through there to kind of secure it. And the handle is only about that long. So they'd hold it like that, and you just go like chopping. Dude, mostly has kind of a funky little edge in there. That's all right, kind of cute. And just like that, we stole their technology. This is great. I just love that color. That's cool. That doesn't happen every time. I'm not sure what to say about that.
Thank you to Greg. You'll be seeing him in a few upcoming videos where he helps with the casting of a few other items. Greg is a sword casting teacher who travels the country teaching group classes. If you want him to come to you, shoot him a message at his website, swordcastingguy.com. Now with a sickle, I can harvest some of my grain.
So me and Andy collected some cattails during the summer and have let them dry since then. That's good because it means when I leave a basket with them, there won't be a lot of shrinkage and I won't get gaps for the flour to fall through. But that's bad because the dry cattail doesn't want to bend. If I tried to weave with this, I'd just get a bunch of snaps. So I've soaked the cattail for about an hour in water, which gives me a piece that won't shrink when I weave with it, but is also pliable enough that I can make a basket.
Next, casting a chisel and hammer. My first attempt with a clay mold failed, but was a bit more successful using sand.
This is the leftover elm tree from what we cut down for the bow. We're going to repurpose some of it by making a handle for this hammerhead that Andy made me. flock into a saddle kern. To do that, I just need to hollow out a little dip in it along this way, which will help collect the flour as we grind it.
While Annalise prepped the cornstone, I started processing of some of the harvested wheat by threshing it, by beating it with a stick. Now to grind it and make some bread. The first forms of bread were just baked flatbreads, made without any rising or leavening agent, which Annalise is going to make by using some of the ground flour and some honey I've harvested before.
So I'm going to eat what people ate before we had bread to kind of show why the logical next step in food was bread. We have wheat berries. I can crack that with my teeth, but it takes some work. So humans ground it up into flour, mixed it with water and maybe honey if they had access to it, to make a kind of porridge. It's kind of like oatmeal. Pretty bland, it's really only getting flavor from the honey. So I can see why something like this would be flattened and then baked into flatbread. You can kind of like throw them in there and get this one on the side. Oh, they have ways to go. Hold on.
Yeah, that's what she does.
I don't like that. The two breads that I kind of cooked more in the ashes that I already bit into, and they were pretty good. So I figured I'd test the two that I cooked more on the rock, but ended up finishing off in the fire anyways, just because it was taking quite a while. This one is the one sweetened with honey, and this one is just water and wheat flour. So we'll start with this one, and just so look at the inside of it. Kind of like unflavored pizza crust. It's good. It's bread. And it's warm, which is right now the most important factor to me. I'd eat it, like casually. It's a good snack. It definitely fill you up when your main concern with food was filling you up. That's pretty good.
Yeast was a later development whose origin isn't entirely known for sure. But as wild yeast is present nearly everywhere, it's easy to imagine it getting accidentally discovered at some point. The invention of leavened bread and brewed beer share the same ingredients and rough dates of origin. It's hard to say with much certainty which came first and which led to the other. But we'll be exploring some potential accidental beer making in the future with some of my other grains soon. Either way, bread leavened with yeast began being made in Egypt by 4000 BCE. It quickly became the standard in many parts of the world. For my yeast, I made a batch of watery flour and left it out near our tomato plants. Yeast are attracted to sugary plants, like tomatoes, so it should be a ripe area to collect some. After a few hours of exposure, I brought it inside to cultivate for the next few days somewhere warm and continue to feed it additional flour as we go.
Check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so I got the freshly ground flour and the yeast culture that's been cultivating. Get some water, cut some honey, let's make some Egyptian bread. Some bowls. Can I do that gluten? After kneading the dough, it's left to rise for an hour. Then knead it again. And left to rise once more. But to truly bake bread, we're going to need an oven. Using our Minnesota winterproof mobile lawn, patent pending, we built a stone foundation, covered the interior shape of the oven in sand, and then used a material called cob, which is made from combining clay, sand, and straw. In our case, leftover straw from all the grains we harvested. After drying and hardening, the sand is scooped out, and the oven is ready to be heated up by transferring in some coals.
Monster in our oven.
Once hot, we left the bread to cook for a little over an hour, occasionally checking on its progress. While we wait for the bread to bake, let's dwell on some of the negative implications of this innovation we just made.
Bread makes you fat?
While the surplus of food was great for building civilizations and advancing technological development, for the average individual themselves, it was a different case. Archaeological evidence suggests that the switch to agriculture was generally a negative one to a person's life, with evidence of declining living standards, extra stress on bones from repetitive labor, and people overall usually getting shorter. Some theories suggest agriculture became dominant by people falling into a trap of sedentism. It's believed that it wasn't until global climate change at around 10,000 BCE, stable long-term agriculture became viable, and once a tribe settled into farming, their population would quickly grow too big to ever return to hunting and gathering, and they'd be forced to farm more and more to feed everyone. Then, as history progressed, agricultural societies merely outgrew non-agrarian societies, and whenever conflict would arise, they usually had superior numbers to push them out, causing agriculture to quickly spread around the world. Anyways, my bread should be done now. Wow, that's actually really good. That is some good bread. Mouth noises. Turned out pretty nice. So, if you wanted to make this bread yourself, how long would it take, and how much would it cost? The answer for that is it would take 71.5 hours to raise your own crops, make the tools to harvest them, make your own grinding stone, grind it, capture your own yeast, and then bake it into actual bread. At minimum wage, that's $572. But for one loaf, that's only $286. That's not a bad deal. So overall, very interesting process. You don't really think about the grinding the grain, which without a modern mill, it is pretty hard to do. Making the stone is pretty time consuming. I don't actually know myself because I didn't at least do that. but it looked really hard to watch her do that. Just going through the whole process, you can definitely tell how improvements to this were made along the way. The berries of the wheat itself, not very edible, they're very hard, so grind them up into gruel. It's okay. I think you bake it into a small little flatbread. Pretty good. You can totally see how you could just accidentally leave it out and capture some yeast, and then that'll turn it into something that's a lot more alive and a lot more spongy, overall a lot more pleasant to eat. You can kind of tell it's kind of an accidental evolution that happened along the way. So we made bread, and bread's basically the building block of civilization, and then the thing that kind of just destroys civilization, the other byproduct of this, booze. The cause and solution to all life's problems. It's not really known if beer came before bread or at what point, but it's pretty obvious to see how you can get that. We have this little culture of yeast. We're gonna let this guy sit a little bit longer and see if we get some beer. Just forget about it. Also follow some like 6,000-year-old recipes as well. Made a few tools specific for this episode, but our next episode we're gonna make a whole new batch of bronze tools, revisit kind of how he did the melting of it with a little bit more efficient and more modern method that was used a little bit later into the Bronze Age. Keep moving along in the future. Now we have bread, the building block for civilization. Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. So if you want to see more of our content, consider supporting us. Any amount really helps. Don't forget to ring the bell. Thank you, and thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and check out other content we have covering a wide variety of topics. Also, if you've enjoyed these series,
What did you think about the bread? Yeah. Or once they make the sizzle,